hier begrüßen zu dürfen, den José Morales von Atlassian. José.
Hello.
Great to have you with us. So, you came the long way from the West Coast.
I did. I'm still half asleep.
Okay, so it's not really.
This is not even happening. I'm still sleeping.
So
right.
we just, in the previous panel, we just talked about the journey we are on from the internet over to the social internet towards the digital workplace.
Yeah.
And we already talked about all the challenges we have going with this.
Yeah.
And now you will keynote a little bit also on the aspect how to introduce this revolution.
Yeah.
We talked about that we have to ignite the people for the idea of working collaborative together. So, and your keynote is now about starting the collaborative revolution, and it's your stage.
Thank you. Well, good. Well, I'm going to talk less about product and more about kind of the culture for change of collaboration. Let me just ask, really, how many people know Atlassian already? Good. Anybody already used Jira or Confluence and or HipChat? My favorite thing. All right. Good. Well, good. Well, I'm going to talk today a little bit about how we deal with collaboration at the company. So, we're obviously a collaboration software company, but this is really more about our culture and how we share information. First, a little bit about me. I run corporate development, but I also run a bunch of different things for the company. Like I run the HipChat business, so HipChat's our instant messaging product that we have as well. So I'm deeply focused on social collaboration at the company. That's my bobblehead. So why do we collaborate? What's important about collaboration? First of all, we think that it helps have less frustration in the company. We have a very open company, and what it allows you to do is know what your co-workers are working on, they know what you're working on, and you're able to work together more effectively. So what we think is that stronger collaboration, less frustration, will end up with better performance. And we see this in our company with our employees. So they're sharing information, they're learning how to work together more effectively, and we end up getting higher performance groups and higher performance teams. So that's what we're really all about at Atlassian, is building high performance teams. And we're doing this for ourselves. So I have a bunch of different teams, and we're very focused on trying to get the most out of them. So a little fun video to start. So what happens if you don't perform well? Are there pills that you can take for your company? And I'll show you a little fun video. It's a little odd, but you may enjoy it. See if you can hear it. You have audio? Oh, hold on. I realized I didn't plug in the audio. Try that again. You have audio? Yep. Nope.
Tense. It's my team. I can't get them to work together no matter what I do.
It sounds like your team has CD.
CD? What's that?
Collaborative dysfunction. It affects lots of teams, especially older ones.
How do I get rid of it?
Just take Confluence. That's what we did.
Really? Does it work?
Totally. Confluence wipes out a lot of the symptoms of CD, like reckless meeting disorder, disruptive email flatulence, or project management stress.
Wow. And it's that easy?
Yes. Just one dose of Confluence and your team will be collaborating in no time.
This sounds great.
Talk to Atlassian to see if your company is healthy enough for Confluence. Do not worry if you experience a rapid reduction in emails and meeting requests, as this is an intended effect of Confluence. Side effects may include improved team dynamics, productivity, and increased levels of creativity. To avoid long-term injury, seek immediate help from Confluence if you're in a meeting lasting more than 4 hours. Try Confluence today and stop living with CD.
So in the US, we're bombarded by pharmaceutical commercials for one drug that you can take or another drug. And so that commercial is just pretending to be a pharmaceutical collab. So there is no pill you can take, obviously. So, but a fun look at it. So what makes great teams? Let me give an example. I guess maybe here for football teams, showing Barca, maybe I should have used a different team. But they're a very good, very strong team. And so why are they a strong team? First of all, they have a really good understanding of each other. They know they're used to working together. They know what each other are doing. They're self-critical. After the games and even during the match, they'll talk to each other about what they can change, tell people what's not working, what is working. They have transparent statistics. This is obviously the beauty of sport. Everybody knows how well they're doing. They're able to adapt, changing defenses, changing players. They're able to make changes so they can do well. And they have clear goals. And finally, there's no one point of failure. You can, when one member leaves, another person can pick up that spot. Although it's hard for Barca when Messi leaves. So what we see is the combination between productivity and communication is that today about 40% of productivity is due to communication. So that's why we're so focused on building collaboration technology so you can improve collaboration. Today, about 70% of communication is between teams and their bosses. And what we're really focused on is trying to change those numbers a little bit and make it so that the majority of the communication is within the team. So, spend less time. Otherwise, with the boss, if the boss is the subject of 70% of your communication, then that person becomes the bottleneck for all the information in the company. So we're very focused on how do we help teams work together more effectively. And, in order to empower your team, you have to stop controlling everything, whether that be information, decisions, and things. And so I'm going to talk a little bit now about 4 ways you can start a collaboration revolution at your company. So first, I think it starts with culture. So obviously, your company has to want to share. So it starts at the top. If your CEO is someone that looks like this at you all day and is yelling, it's probably unlikely that you're going to create a really great collaborative technology. These guys, these are our CEOs and founders. So very informal environment, and they're very focused on sharing, and they share. And so I think when you look at a collaborative company, if your top tier of management isn't sharing information, then no one else is going to share information. We also set core values. Most companies have core values, but you don't really set them, you really discover them. And this is actually the work paper that we put together a number of years ago, trying to figure out what our values were as a company. And values aren't necessarily unique to Atlassian. IBM has values that are very good. These are all very good values: customer orientation, discipline, quality, all very important things. We really made collaboration part of our values. So number 1 is open company, no bullshit. It means that we do share just about everything internally. Nearly all the information on everything we do is shared. Which is very, the other big thing as well is play as a team. So we're very focused on so play is important because play in English means have fun, and then play as a team is kind of the sports mechanism, but we really believe in enjoying what you do and doing it as a team. And finally, I think a really important part of collaboration in our company is the last one, which is be the change you seek. And so that is, don't talk to us about problems, come to us with solutions. Go and make changes. And it's really important that we believe that everybody in the company is empowered to do that, which allows, and that only happens if you have a really open environment. So even when I started years ago, I was very impressed by how everybody felt like they had a voice in the company, which is not the same thing that happens everywhere. And people could actually make things happen from the bottoms up. When if you can do that, think about, there's only a few people at the top, but there's many, many people at the bottom. And if you can get them executing, it works more effectively. So we also focus on involving everybody in decisions, regardless of where they're located, what role they play in the company, or what time zone they live in. We're very focused on how do we get them involved. And here's an example. We put out our purpose statement a number of years ago. Atlassian exists to unleash the potential in every team through the power of software. Before we decided to do that, we put it out on our Confluence, which is our wiki product. And we had people agreeing with it, disagreeing with it, and asking for clarification, and we kept modifying it. So this is just an example of how everything we do is shared throughout the company. Then we create goals. Transparency for us is critical. So, every team in our organization has goals. Every individual and every team. And if you go and you search for them, you can find pretty much everybody's goals, which is very, very important. Without clear goals, without communicated goals, people don't know what each other are working on. This is how we do it. So we review goals often. We're checking them frequently. We do a quarterly set of goals. We do also long-term goal planning, which is we do 2-year and 5-year plans. We're always getting criticism from, anytime you publish anything publicly in our company, you get a lot of public criticism for what you're doing. So we modify them, and then we share them, make sure everybody has them so it's complete clarity. Another thing I think we do at the company really well is, when people start often at a company, the only way you know who they are is you get an email with a name or you have a new phone number, but you don't really know anything about that person. And we actually had an offsite this week with the management team, and one of the things that we had talked about the analysis is teams that really know each other better personally are actually much more effective. And we went through a bunch of stats on that, and we actually went around the room and we're asking how well we really know the other person in terms of what drives them, what's happening in their personal life. And we talked about how important that is. So we actually have a method for starting. So, people is where what we focus on. So we believe, get personal when you're setting people up, when you bring a new person in. This is that view of the person, normally, if there's just an email address, there's nothing you know about them. So what we do is we say, okay, when you start at the company, tell us about yourself. Go and write a blog post internally. And here's an example. Benjamin started at our company, about a year ago, not quite a year ago. So he put a picture of himself up on the web, told us about the car he drives, the music interests he has, and told us a little bit about himself and what he's going to do. And the result is, we have a dashboard where it watches every new blog, and blogs go out to everybody. And what we had here was people saying, hey, welcome, and they learn something new, and you make connections. So when Benjamin calls somebody or Benjamin stops by, there's already context for who he is. And that's worked very nicely for us. Even beyond, once you've already started within the company, we really encourage people to blog internally, often. If you go to a conference, come back, bring information back and share it with people. If you do something neat, particularly in a software company where they're always discovering new technologies or new ways to do things, we encourage people to blog about it, and so we can share the information. Another thing that I think is really important for us is the physical location. Now, not everybody's in the same place, but when we create an environment in our office that is open for work. So you think about your office and what does it look like? This could be, I've worked in offices like this, and this is pretty common. It's hard when you look at this picture. This could be Wednesday, this could be a Monday morning, it could be a weekend. You know nothing about if people are at work or not. The doors don't tell you anything, so it's already very closed. And a closed door that has no window says, "Don't disturb me. I don't want to be bothered." And in the hallways, you're never going to have conversation. I mean, there's no one walking around. It's very cold. So we focus on creating a space for collaboration. I'll give you an example. This is our office in San Francisco where I work. There are no walls except for the glass walls on the conference rooms. And it works phenomenally. You have a perception of who's there or who's not there, and you feel like you're working together. We all have desks. No one has an office. Even the CEOs have just 2 desks that sit next to each other. And it creates for a very nice work environment. Even our conference rooms have just glass walls. So you can't hear what they're saying, so they have privacy, but you have a sense that they're at work and that you see what's happening. Now, a lot of people say, I can't work in that environment. It's too crazy, it's too busy. And we have people who it takes them a while to get used to it. So there are ways that we have to get some place that's for when you don't want to be collaborating with everybody. And one is headphones, especially engineers. They love noise canceling headphones. So if people have their headphones on, they probably don't want to be disturbed. So it's one way to get away and have a little bit of privacy in an open environment. Second thing we've done is we built phone booth rooms. So if you need to have a phone call that's personal or private, or you need to have some space where nobody's going to disturb you, this is a good example. And there's a lot of examples of companies who have done this type of thing, created pods. You go to Google, there's pods you can sit in. These rooms have noise canceling material on the wall, so they're very quiet. And this way you can either have a conversation in private or just work in private without any risk of being disturbed. Additionally, since we have teams that work together and they sit together, often what they'll do is instead of saying don't disturb me, they'll say, hey, disturb me. I'm the person that you should disturb. So the people in support will then put up a flag at their desk, say, I'm the guy. Come talk to me. Bother me. And so that allows the rest of your team to work effectively while one person is actually helping people as they walk by. So what are the final kind of communication barriers that I see? There's place communication barriers, technology, and timing. So Yahoo, Marissa Mayer famously told people they couldn't work at home anymore and they had to work in the office. And I do believe that the office is, often co-location is the most effective way to work together in teams. But it's also not realistic, particularly as you get big and people are distributed. So you take Atlassian as an example. We have 2 primary offices, one in San Francisco, one in Sydney, although now we also have Austin and Gdansk, Poland, and Kuala Lumpur, and we have a number of other offices. But people are already not in the same place. And then, some people actually work off by themselves. We have a guy who lives on Guernsey, on the island Guernsey, right off the coast of the UK. So they're out in the middle of nowhere. And people sometimes work in different spaces. I go to the coffee shop to work sometimes, just because it gets me out of the office, or if I'm at home on a weekend, I can go work there. So, and people may travel like I am now. I'm traveling and I need to be able to connect. So geolocation shouldn't matter. And people are working asynchronously. They're working at different time zones, different times a day, maybe flex time because of family. So we need tools that allow you to do technology, and obviously that's where we focused. And the traditional technology that people have, email and Excel spreadsheets and Word docs, all very important part of your work life, but really bad collaboration tools. Email, once that conversation's gone, maybe you kept it, maybe you didn't. How do I go back and refer to that? A Word doc as well is, it's not a great way to share and get everybody's comments on it because their comments are in your document and it kind of destroys the way your document looks. And even shared drives aren't ideal for sharing because they don't really have the metadata or ability to really tag it. So let me give you an example of what we use. We use our own product, Confluence, and all of our products are collaborative. But this was an example of someone in our company wrote a blog post and said that they were concerned about how we were supporting customers and they thought it wasn't working out ideally and that they really wanted to change. This was to be the change you seek. Later, a day later, she already had, I don't know, 25, 30 comments on it. People saying, yeah, I agree, or I disagree, or here's what we could do. And a week later, they had 62 likes and tons of comments and a solution. And so the nice thing about that is that we shared this. This would have been very hard to do via email. Imagine all the emails going back and forth, and then people respond to an email, but it was someone else responds, but then that thing's not all in the same thread. And if someone wanted to go back a week later and see this, it's very easy. You could search for it and read it. So it's really built for it. Another common problem in a company is you don't know where the knowledge is in your company. Who knows the answers to different questions? And then if you're also one of the people who are always answering questions, you're always answering the same question. So that also becomes tiring. So we've also built something, because we know the answers out in the organization. So we built a product that does that for us. So it just takes Confluence and it adds questions. This is just an example. Imagine if you search for agile methodologies and there was nothing there. Highly unlikely at my company, since that's what we do for a living, partly agile. But we've added a question, so now you can ask a question. You go in there, you ask your questions, like, if I'm not in development team, how do I do agile methodologies? Good example. Posted the question, and people start answering the questions. And more people answer the questions, and then people vote for the different answers. And then people vote up, so you see all of a sudden Ryan's answer got seven responses, 7 votes. So now Ryan is basically, that's the formal answer. And we have a dashboard in our company that shows everything, our blogs, our most liked posts, the things that have the most traction. It's kind of like a Reddit or Hacker News for your own company. And so you see here at the top of it, you see that the question was answered, or was made, and then it was answered a bit later. And the most important thing for this type of knowledge and for sharing this knowledge is that, let's just say that someone joins the company a month later and they say, how do I do agile methodologies if I'm not a software development team? How do I do it in marketing? They search for it, and all of a sudden you have a bunch of questions up here that show up, and you can now go back to it. So now the person who always answers questions doesn't have to answer it again, and the people who are asking don't actually go look for it. The answer's already there. So very important thing. So another key thing to us is chat. So today, I guess email. With Confluence, we're trying to get rid of a lot of email. because you're taking long form, kind of unstructured conversations and putting it into a collaborative environment. With chat, you're almost getting rid of the telephone in some respects. You don't need the phone as much. And it's kind of like the revolution with chat is kind of like the way we've seen the revolution in telephones going from people talking on the phone to people SMSing. It's really interesting when you walk around nowadays and see people. You see less people talking, and most people are looking at their phone because they're exchanging data. And so chat is critical, particularly to developers, because it's the way they communicate effectively. And so I assume most of you use chat. But really, it's about chat rooms. It's more than chat one-on-one. So HipChat, in our case, we create different rooms with different topics. And the people who are interested in the topic or team members are able to participate in that room. So as an example, we have a Confluence development team. They have a HipChat room, and they probably have 7 or 8, depending on what your function is. But the HipChat room, where they can follow all the issues, all their builds, all the process, sharing ideas, asking questions. So it's all in there live, and it's also persistent chat. So it's always there. The design team has one, and even fun teams like ping pong enthusiasts. We have ping pong tables in all of our companies and all of our offices, and people may want to come to an office and say, hey, let me find a person to play ping pong. And so it's just the conversations that you want to follow, and it's great for remote teams or local, because it's better than the phone because it doesn't actually have to interrupt you. You don't have to answer it. You can actually answer it 40 seconds later when you're done with your thread, or 5 minutes later. It doesn't matter. It's perfect for slightly asynchronous conversations. And if you're in a different time zone, like when you're traveling, I'll go later on and I'll go into the HipChat team room and I'll just read what happened in the last 20 hours while I've been flying and driving around and say, okay, what did I miss? It's a really easy way to get up to date so you're like participating. And you can also bring people into the conversation like you can with all of our products by mentioning them. So you can mention somebody, they get a notification, it sucks them into the conversation, they can start talking to you. So chat is critical, and now with our HipChat, we actually have video chat. So video chat is another critical part, whether you're using Skype or using video conferencing in office rooms. Video's critical. So for our communication, so it's another big area that we're focused on. So summarizing, what is important to have a strong collaboration team, and what's worked well for us at Atlassian? Obviously for us, we think a lot of it is important based upon technology. You need technologies that are built for collaboration, and that can be a structured things like workflow, like Jira, that's structured but it's collaborative. It can be unstructured, kind of in the sense of Confluence, and it can be instant and notifications-based, like HipChat. No physical barriers. How do you create an office environment that's very open and inviting? An open culture is where it all starts. If it's not important to the leaders, it's not going to be important to the company. And get personal. Get to know your teammates. With that, information flows freely and work gets done. And that's it. Thanks for your time.
So, thank you, Jose. Very exciting talk.
Thanks.
But one critical question from my side because you mentioned, certainly from your perspective, also from Atlassian, you also brought examples also from other tech companies.
Yeah.
Isn't this easy for people coming from the tech companies, because people are different already in the tech companies? They are more open, more collaborative per se, sure. But comparing to traditional industries?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think there is different. I mean, I think there are companies who are more open, but I see all sorts of companies using our products. Like HipChat is just group chat. One of the biggest doctor's office networks in California uses HipChat. So I remember I walked in one day to register to go see a doctor, and I was wearing a HipChat T-shirt, and they're like, I use HipChat. They were using it. So there's a lot of different organizations that use it, and they want to share. Now, it's very hard in a traditional company. There's some companies that have limitations on sharing, like banks. You have to be careful what you can share or how much you can retain. So there are some differences, but I think the value doesn't matter what industry you're in. So.
But we see in Germany, especially in Europe per se, also for those traditional industries, there are a lot of reluctance also on the side of people. So they might not even be regulated by the company or by laws. But even on the people's side, there are reluctance of really getting out and using social tools to collaborate and to share information. So
you have to show examples. I think there's a great example. There's one of my colleagues who used to work with me is now at Twitter. And his whole job is to go get people to use agile methodologies and collaborative methodologies in Twitter more effectively. So his job is to just train people and teach them. And I think that's the thing that companies, existing companies could do is, get a few people that you make the people who are going to help do this, and get the conversation going. Get people involved, pull them in. And I think at my prior company years ago, we used Confluence, and it just didn't have the same benefit because we didn't really insist on it. But once you get used to it, it's very hard to get back. Like, people send me an email with a document attached and a bunch of data, and we send back a note saying, can you just put this in Confluence? It'd just be much easier. That way we can share it and go back to it. So I think once they get that, you have to get it going. And it starts either from the top or from internal evangelists. And so that's how actually because we don't have a sales team, and we don't sell expensive stuff. Our product's very cheap. It starts bottoms up, and it just takes off. HipChat's a great example. I bought the company for Atlassian. It was because we had our own chat products, and one of our other teams started using HipChat. And from the time when they had 20 people and I started looking at it to the time we bought it, we had 200 people on it without me talking to anybody. It just took off. And I think that's what will happen at those companies as well. People start using them and like them. But some people won't.
Yeah. Okay, but still, how to get those people that don't want to get on there? Because I think we talked this morning also in our discussions that we need to get more professionalism into the social adoption approach. Yeah. Because the last 5 years we talked about, yes, it's important, social adoption, and yes, we have to change culture, and it's very important, but nobody had an advice on really how to do this. Yeah. So you talked about some building blocks, but these are still some general building blocks. Do you have any more recommendations on really how to get those people going?
Well, imagine if all your company's announcements and all the strategic discussion and all that, you just put that's where you do it. And it takes leadership, right? If the CEO or the head of the department or one of those people is putting everything onto a shared space like a wiki or whatever, people are going to have to go there to get information.
But there you mentioned one specific point, what I also wanted to point out, because it's one of your building blocks, is the leadership. So leadership is really key for...
Leadership is very important.
For bringing this into the company.
Leadership doesn't necessarily have to be the CEO. It helps when it's people at the top who are doing that. But you'll see in a team, there's leaders, there's thought leaders in teams, and sometimes they're on the bottom. They just have hey, use this. And there are certain teams that take off better, like technical teams, take off better bottoms up, because that's just the way they think, right, and the way they do things. Business teams often need management. Hey, this is how we do things. So I think it depends on your company, but you need leadership, whether it be bottoms up or tops down. Someone needs to be saying, hey, use this stuff, and then pull people into the conversation. And the value, the value is you learn more, you get more done, people comment, you write a post and people comment on it, you see the value. Yeah.
Where will this lead us to? Well, what's the future idea of the collaborative company? Or what is your idea?
I think it's a company where basically you have access to information that's very, very easy, and you know who the leaders are, you know who the thought leaders are. Just a collaborative perfectly collaborative environment. You can pretty much find out anything that's going on, and contact and share things and get feedback from people in an efficient way. And it's about leverage. If you have to make a phone call to every person in your company to see what they think, that's going to take a lot of time. But if you can do it through a social technology, you can actually learn more much quicker than you could through traditional mechanisms. You have to speak to everybody. That's going to take a long time.
So, but this way also you would agree on that the cultural shift in the minds of the top management is more important than the technology?
Definitely. Because there's a lot of companies. We get people on occasion who say, it didn't get adopted. So it's always we go talk to them. What happened? Well, no one really used it. So you have to get going on it. You obviously want to make your tools as fun to use and easy to use as intuitive as possible. If it's really hard to use the tool, people are never going to want to adopt it. So you have to make the tools easy to use. And so that's what we focus on as well. So leadership, but also once they do get people using things, make sure the technology is simple, straightforward, and easy to use.
Okay, so let's summarize this. You said it's important leadership, cultural, the cultural component, and then also the technology. So, but what is your final recommendation for the people who are listening to you? What should they take home with them to do next on when they're coming back to the office?
I guess outside of buying all the Atlassian products, obviously, which is very important. No, I think for certain is find out what you're using to share. Figure out, go try to search on something internally at your company and figure out, hey, I want this piece of knowledge, or I want to share some information. Figure out how efficiently you're working today. And if it's not working as efficiently as I was talking about, then you should go talk to your teams about, hey, let's try something different. Let's try some sort of, chat or wiki type product and see how it helps us work.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jose Morales
Thanks.
from Atlassian.